Hello, and welcome. Tonight I'm going to be doing a couple of little sketches, and the theme for tonight is Venice. Done Venice quite a lot, and pretty familiar with various different scenes, but I haven't done these two before, and I wanted to try them out only because the sky in this first particular scene of Venice is really kind of dark at the bottom, so it actually brings out the light on the domes and on the buildings, and you can see on the top of the reference as well, it's a little bit lighter. So I wanted to try something a bit different and just go through my three-step process again. And if you're new here, this is going to help you understand the process of how to paint, because a lot of beginners, they start out, they don't know where to begin in terms of the drawing, in terms of painting the lighter colors, the darker colors. Often people just go in and wing it, but there is a particular process that if you follow through, you can end up with a at least half decent painting when you're done. Alrighty, so I am going to go ahead and get started. I can see a few people already in the stream. I haven't made any announcement, or again, just haven't set a particular event for today. So I'm just going through, and it's just basically so you guys can watch me sketch along a new scene that I haven't done before, so you can sort of get into my head and understand the process that I use and know that it kind of works for pretty much any type of scene out there. So if you're there, make sure you say hi in the chats and let me know where you're watching from as well. But I'm going to get started with the drawing, and the first thing I'm going to do is draw a line where the buildings kind of meet the water in the back. Okay, a rough kind of line, and it's just below the center point of the scene. Okay, just below the center point of the scene, like this. Okay, and we've got all these buildings out in the back, and it's actually pretty tricky if we look at those buildings. But what we want to do is simplify, get all these buildings all in with one go. I'll just lower the brightness of the light a little bit so you can see what I'm drawing. Do get that comment from people saying that it's a little bit difficult to see sometimes. Okay, so around, I would say about a third of the way through the scene, that's where you've got these sort of bits and pieces out the back. And I'm going to remember to hold your pencil right at the end. Okay, don't hold it too close to the front, because that's going to end up creating very forced looking lines, darker lines, and you're going to lose that sort of fluidity. Okay, so I might just move my palette over a touch so I have some space to do this. Oh, that's much better. Jeez. Okay, so we've got this sort of side of the building, that one right in the center of the scene. Okay, you do have, just zoom in. Sometimes it's also good to zoom in on the reference photo as well, just to make sure. I'll make this, how do I make this full screen here? Oops, what am I doing? I've got to make this full screen. Maybe. Okay. For some reason I can't. Oh, got it. Righto. So, yeah. So in here you've got this sort of, there's a bunch of these little archways. I don't know what they are. Kind of. It's interesting photograph, because this is the view from the Grand Canal. It's a view from the Grand Canal, but yeah, it's kind of like on the left side of the bridge. So get more, yeah, you get sort of more the way that the person's angled the camera, sort of more the right hand side. And we've got Serena. How you doing, Serena? Watching you while watching the Australian Open again. Yeah, that's awesome, Serena, that you can multitask them both. Really appreciate you being here. And yeah, if there's a few people on YouTube as well, if you're around, drop a message below in the chats. I'd love to hear what whereabouts you're from and what you're up to tonight. Okay, so the rooftop of this building there, let's just, and look, again, just a simplification of these buildings. You always want to remember that that a lot of these buildings, they're just composed of small shapes. So if you can draw the shapes, then you can basically draw the building. So the side of that building there is, it's basically just a rectangle. So draw that rectangle in like that. There's another one here next to it coming down that side of the building. The rooftop of that building here as well. You're going to get a lot of these overlapping shapes of these rooftops. Okay, it's so many of them. And, to try to draw every single one in is really going to be pretty stressful. So just pick out a few of them. Okay. The main thing though is this dome here that we need to get in with some degree of accuracy. Okay, so remember the dome is just a semicircle. Just a semicircle. As long as you can draw the half of a circle in, you're gonna be fine. On the top of it, there's bits and pieces up the top, but I'm gonna just again simplify it, and there's another smaller kind of dome on top like this. Okay, there is a bit of there is a fair bit of sky as well above. So make sure you leave a bit of room above for the sky. And the rest of this, it's not going to be a big deal. As long as I got the dome in, I'm fine with everything else, okay? Little dome next to it like that, okay? Again, smaller sort of dome. And again, with these kind of little top parts of the dome as well, like that. Let's sort of come into join onto the bottom part. Okay, there's a little window there or something. The sides, there's, another building in front of that. All kinds of details in here, and it's a mistake to try to get in every single detail. Just pick out a few, and I think for me it's the domes. If you can get these domes in okay, you're going to be fine. You just have to trust that it will end up looking like what you want it to by the end of this scene. Okay, we got here a couple of these smaller like kind of structures behind here as well, so I'm going to get those in as well. Okay, look at that. Doesn't take much, just a tiny little detail like that, the side of this building, this tower like this as well. And let's continue on. There is a larger building here that I can see, and it's like the big sort of side of the building, and you can see that the roof go up like that, go sort of sideways like that. Then there's another building in front of it here. It's all up to you in terms of how much detail you want to put in here. I'm not fussed at all. I just want to get in an impression of this whole scene and imply this beautiful light that's hitting the top of these buildings, and the light's coming in from the right hand side. Okay, so you can see that there are shadows on the left side of the buildings here, and on these buildings here to the left, there's basically they're all pretty much in light. Okay, right, so let's get going. There's a tree or something here. A little tree. What is this? There's like it's like a trickier building here. Let's get that one in. Kind of just comes out of the scene like that. Here. Okay, another building. Okay, there we have it. So the buildings are pretty much done. Like, I don't want too much detail in there. Just a little bit like that's going to be fine. Back end, a bit more detail there. Now I need to separate these buildings out from the left, and we know that they start roughly about this third of the way through the scene, which we'd already marked out before, and that makes it easier now because I can just go through and put a kind of vertical line like this, and let's just can I get this one? It's on the water, just on the water like that, and going up. And let's just do this all in one go like that. Okay, good. There is also another building behind here. It's a rooftop and bits and pieces on top like that. Okay, I really like that there's this kind of shade on the side of this building. Look at that, this red shade, and it's casting a nice shadow underneath that really emphasizes the light coming in from the right hand side. And I also don't want to detail too much in this left side sort of section as well. But you know, because it is closer to the front, the foreground of the scene, I do think we're going to be stuck with putting in a few extra details, a few little extra details here and there. And let's just put in down at the base the doorway, little doorway at the base like that. There is kind of a dividing. These two buildings are divided actually. Separate them out a little. And of course, you've got these kind of pillars that are running down. They're just really. I've never noticed these ones before actually until this particular reference photo, because often the pillars are quite small off in the back. I didn't really notice them. So I'm going to go in just again imply this stuff. Okay, but I don't want this to be something that's going to be torturing us later in terms of trying to get in all these little details. A lot of it we can just wait and do it all in the watercolors, okay? But a bit of these smaller markings does help. It does help to direct you later on so that you're not guessing too much with all your brush strokes. Remember, all this stuff is going to be quite it's going to be all in the light anyway. So you can see here in the water there's a bunch of boats. There's one boat here, and just get in the shapes of them. They're like kind of little rectangular like shapes just on the water, and they overlap with each other, so you can even just make up a few there in the back. You know, there's these little poles that stick out of the water, some of these wooden poles as well, and of course you've got all these boats. And you know, I'm kind of left with the decision of which ones to include in, which ones not to include in. I'll put this speedboat here, like this one, like just coming in like that. There, you've got a bit of the deck and a bit of light there as well. Oops, on top, basic boat like that. It looks kind of like a boat. And remember the shadows to the left of it. What else do we have here? You know, you've got another one. I'm just, you know, just looking at it from the top, you find that you get a little, oops, the back of the boat like that. Okay. I don't need too much detail in here, just a little bit to keep the scene looking a bit more interesting. But I don't want these boats to be like the, you know, the whole, you know, detracting from the rest of the scene. This could be like this looks like a barge or something, like a larger boat moving through. You know, you've got some other boats here just, you know, near the buildings. Okay, there's some in the dark. All good. Okay, pretty sort of basic. Okay, all right, so you should have a drawing that resembles something like this. And now I'm going to go in and let's do this. Now I think what I'm going to do is add in a tiny bit of color for the buildings first. So using a mop brush, larger kind of mop brush in relation to the paper that I'm working anyhow. Okay, so I'll grab some. What have we got? We've got yellow ochre, and we've got a bit of this orangey colors in there as well. I'm just going to drop that in like that into the sides of the buildings. Bit of that yellow ochre there, there. Keep it really light as well. So I'm talking about 10%, 5 to 10% paint, and the rest of is water. So this is your first step. Okay, first step out of 3 that you make sure. Yeah, and I think this is the most important step. Really, it's just making sure that you've got in a nice light wash of color over everything, because this is going to hang around all the way until the end. Okay, you're basically just painting in the light, which is absolutely crucial. If you don't have any light in here, then you're not going to be able to produce any shadows. And the rooftops, there's a bit of burnt sienna, so I'm just mixing up a bit of burnt sienna. Again, a very light wash and feathering that in to the top of the buildings like that. Okay, if it just sort of melts through to the bottom part of the buildings, that's completely fine. That's pretty much what you want anyway. Okay, a little bit of that. And the buildings up the top here, now this is kind of tricky, but it's kind of like an off-white color. Well, some parts of it are white, some parts of it are not. So I could just put in a little bit of this creamy sort of looking color here. Okay, but really, I mean, you can almost just get away with it by leaving it pretty much white if you want. Just wanted to change it up. Add in a little bit of something in there so that it's not too sort of stark. And I might pop in a tiny bit of this, like a little bit of this blue up here in the dome. All right, just a little bit of that blue. Okay, to emphasize, yeah, a bit of the coolness on top of that dome. Okay, this is actually some turquoise, a little bit of turquoise. All right, just a touch of that turquoise, nothing much you need there. Okay, there we go, just a bit of that burnt sienna. I'm going to go over to this left side of the building now, and I'm going to drop in some yellow ochre, and let's just make it really light. How are we all doing, by the way? Let me know in the chats how you're finding everything so far, and if you have any questions. I'll get to when I sort of check later. Some more here. Just all this stuff. I really just want to get it in with a quick few little brush strokes, and that's it. You know, I don't want to be left with too much detail or mess in there, essentially. Okay, so let's continue on with the rest of this. I think a little bit of yellow ochre for the tops as well. Tops of these little domes. I will drop a little bit in there because there is a tiny bit of like yellow ochre or yellowish color up the top. Okay, good. Even here I've noticed there's like a bit of green as well for this like tree, shrubs or whatever there. Okay. Now, we're going to get into the juicy bit now. And before I do, I might actually... I'll just use my spray bottle and just give this bottom part of the scene a little bit of a spray, because it's starting to dry off quite quickly, and I want to keep it little bit wet for later. So the top of the scene, what I really liked about this scene is that it's kind of this graded wash where it starts out really light and then it goes down into a more darker color. So I will start off with a bit of cerulean blue, this is like a 5% not even 5%, even less than that, perhaps 5% wash of cerulean blue up the top there. It's just so super light. You can barely tell that there's a color up there. Okay, just to get rid of the white of the paper. And as I move down, I'm going to start putting in a bit more paint, a little bit more cerulean, but also I will mix in some ultramarine blue, maybe a touch of red in there to, I don't know, I just get in a little bit of this subdued purple perhaps into the sky. I don't know, I just want to try this. I'm going to tilt the paper a bit as well and see what it does. And okay, the tricky bit is getting this all to blend together. It's very tricky, but we can do this. We can definitely do this, but it has to be done in one go. Might have to switch over to a smaller mop brush. And it's just a light purple color, okay? Mixture of my ultramarine plus the red. And we don't want to put too much darkness in here as well. It's this is, we want to make it dark enough just so that the dome comes out, but I don't want to overwhelm this scene. Whoops, already done that. I might actually give that, it's tricky. I thought that bit would be dry. I might have to dry that really quickly so that it doesn't run. Okay. I just assumed that bit was already dry, but it wasn't. Doesn't matter. Let's just go ahead. I might do this other bit to the right first. Give this a second or so to quickly to dry off a little. Okay, but bringing that sort of darker color down the page. Okay, and the white, as you can see, that little white of that tower, I've managed to get that to show through by leaving it out, cutting around the tower. Okay. Good. Getting around that left side of the dome at least. I need to just be very careful with it. Okay, good. Bringing that all the way down, cutting around the buildings like this. Okay. That's looking good, but I do think that some extra darker color running through the top bit would be nice, kind of around here, because it's not really blended completely smoothly. And another thing you can do is, if you really want to, you can actually put in a bit of some clouds or something in there. I'm so tempted to do that, and I always do that, but I think I will actually just, I think I'll keep it as is. And we've got Tanya here, Tanya Lovrich from Canberra, loving your live streams. Thank you, Tanya. Appreciate you coming along as well. How you doing? How you doing today? Is it as hot over in Canberra as it is over in Melbourne? I turn on the aircon most of the day. But yesterday it was freezing. Go figure. This is the area that bugged me a bit, where it had, this was not, I kind of went over that area, but I shouldn't have. But it doesn't matter. Look, that dome, we can bring it out, some of the details of that dome out, later on anyway. We've cut around most of it, which is good. Okay, you only get one chance to do this, so just have to be wary. And I'm going to try to, if I can use fewer brush strokes, that's always better. Fewer brush strokes. Okay. Let's have a look. What else do we have in here? Now we've got the water, which I think we're going to have to do right now as well. And what I like to do is the water is I like to just mix it in, start off by adding the shadows on the side of this building and then mixing that in with the water. So for the shadows of the buildings, I'm going to pick up a bit of ultramarine blue, a bit of perylene red, and a bit of what's this? Yellow ochre, and I'm mixing myself up a general kind of grayish color. Okay, but I want to probably put a bit more blue in there. I want it to be a bit more cooler, like a cool gray color. And it's still very watery. I'd say it's still about 30% paint, and the rest of it's just water. Okay, I'm going to try that out on that building. Okay. Now this building has not really dried 100% yet. Okay. So there's going to be a little bit of runniness in it, and I'm willing to sacrifice that just so that we can get a nice smooth wash over things. Okay. Let's go in here. Just testing this out, and I've put in a bit more blue. Okay, and this is where we are just doing a little bit of cutting around some bits and pieces of the buildings like this. Okay. And basically joining this big sort of shadow shape on to everything else. You know, you can see there are some shadows on the buildings and some light showing through. So it often watercolors, it's what you leave out rather than what you actually paint in there. And you have to make sure you're leaving some of that initial light in. Otherwise, it's going to look all too dark, and you know, you won't have that beautiful light that's peeking through. Okay, so always remember that. Let's have a look here. This little house or whatever's got a bit of light there. This one here, and then there's a bit of light there. Okay, and then as we go up into here, it's all pretty dark. I'm gonna mix in some neutral tint in here to just darken this off a bit. Okay, notice all this stuff is like still wet in there, which is good. I don't want I don't want there to be too much too much sort of dry bits at the bottom, because we can mix that into the water and create a bit of a nice flowy effect. Okay, here we go. This right end side of these buildings. I'm just darkening a bit more with neutral tint here. But notice also how oops, I've gone too far, it doesn't matter. Notice how I've also used the same color, similar color as to the sky, like a bit of this purpley color, but just I've darkened that down a bit more. Okay, now into the water we go, and I'm picking up, how am I going to do this? I'm going to just use that same mop brush. Okay, and I'm tilting the paper to just encourage the water to run down the page as well. Picking up some blue, ultramarine, bit of red, but mostly blue, ultramarine. Okay. I also have a little bit of turquoise, which I'm going to mix in as well. But mostly, yeah, ultramarine. And the only way to do it is basically just to jump straight in and see. Now, the water isn't actually as, it's hard to say. Is it as dark as the buildings? Not really. It's a little bit, in fact, it's a tiny bit lighter than the buildings if you look at it. But let's just go ahead and give this a try. Now, notice how I am cutting around some of the boats and bits of white and stuff like that in the water. Okay, and I'm also joining this onto the buildings so that the water and the buildings form one kind of shape. And you've got these boats and everything in the water. I'm just cutting around them, cutting around the general shapes of them as well. Yeah, there's, more boats. You could just put another boat there. Why not? I just indicated some of these before. So we don't have to go over the whole lot. Just cut around, leave some of that white, and we can get those indications of boats or whatever it is afterwards. It's what you leave out that ends up becoming either a boat or a ship. Some of these poles are, it's too difficult around here, but you can actually do the same thing with those poles as well. Okay, coming around down the bottom, just how many brush strokes can I paint this in? Just, I always have to remind myself, fewer brush strokes. So really what we're doing now is just that second step where we are putting in all the dark colors, all the darker shadows. And when we do this, we can create this kind of feeling of light on the buildings. Okay. Here we go. Going down. Should be a bit darker down the base as well. Good. Doesn't have to be perfect. Cut around some of that previous color in there as well. Okay. Good. Now, I always like to add in a bit of sparkle on the water or a bit of waves and things like that. So this is where I'll go back in with some darker paint, bit of ultramarine blue, darker ultramarine blue with a bit of, bit of other color or neutral tint. And we'll just put in some little brush strokes here to indicate some lighter waves on the water, and this will just melt in nicely. Won't cause too many marks or anything like that. Okay, good. I'm going to dust, maybe darken a bit here down the front while it's still wet. You always want to make sure you do this. Okay, on the buildings, I'm going to start putting in some kind of lighter kind of indications of some details on the buildings. So, here, for instance, you might get a bit of this doorway. You're basically just drawing in the watercolors, okay, with the brush to indicate little features of the building that you want to imply. Even here at the base, there's this kind of bit that sticks out at the bottom. I've forgotten to actually get some color in for that there, but there's something there like a little jetty at the front. Okay. What else do we have? You've got little windows and things that you can sort of see from the side. And I'm just, touch and go with the brush where I see an opportunity to put a window or something like that. I'm just dropping it in and continuing on. Okay. The last thing I want to do is spend too much time fussing about with this section. I do like how underneath, like I said, this umbrella, there's a significant shadow here. So I can put that in like that. And what else do we have? Yeah, even here on the left-hand side, there's, you know, these darker bits. Let's see if I can just put in a few little brush strokes to get those in. Okay, that's a few little brush strokes. That bit of this doorway here. Yeah, real basic sort of stuff. There is a bit of darkness behind this building there. Just, it's kind of like a warmer color though. So I'll pick up some more of this color, a little bit of neutral tint, and mixed in with bit of neutral tint mixed in with burnt sienna. Okay. Just notice this building is kind of like quite orangey as well. You can just put in a bit of color like that. Okay, real basic. Okay, so this should all kind of dry and all be dried in a moment. So I'll give it a dry with just pull out the hairdryer, and then we can go in and yeah, basically put in the remaining bits and pieces. Okay, increase the brightness a little bit, and you can see we've got basically all the light colors in. We've got our mid values, the basic general shadows in here. The last step I want to do is put in some of the details of the windows, the darker bits and pieces, and the remaining shadows. So let's firstly, I'm going to go straight into maybe this building here. Got some neutral tint. I'm drying off the brush as well. And what I'm doing is I can just sort of do this, add in these little windows and stuff here in the background to indicate details of this, yeah, the details of windows and stuff on this these buildings here in the back. And we can afford to go a bit darker as well on these windows and what have you. And I'm not paying too much attention, you know, exactly to where, basically to the exact details of each window. Okay, but what we're doing is we're looking maybe in some areas where we might see some darkness, and we're trying to imply that. Okay, even on top of the dome here, it's kind of like a cooler dark color. On the left hand side, I thought, oh, we can just try to get in a bit of this to the left side of the dome. Okay, a bit of that color there, and you can see it casts a bit of a shadow as well. Little tiny little bits of detail here and there that I want to just imply like that. Good. Below there's these like windows, so if I can just go 1, 2, you know, pop in a few of these windows with a bit of darker paint and just slide the brush through and then leave it, you know, just one brush stroke should be enough to capture that. Okay, here there's like this on this dome, there's a bit of darkness to the left hand side of it. So I'm trying to again capture that, soften off that edge, and leave that previous wash behind. Okay, so you can see it's just getting a bit tricky now, but essentially we want to put just some of these lighter shadows on the left hand side of the domes. Okay, we could have done that before actually in the previous wash, but yeah, doesn't matter. Right. Okay. Bit of darkness on the left side of this tower here. Good. And you know, carrying on with these like little windows, you know, if you can use a flat brush or something that's just a smaller, a tiny little brush that you can get in there, you're gonna do well. Okay, even a little round brush. I tend to use a flat brush for these windows because they, you know, it creates a shape that looks a bit more convincing, more squarish. And it's easier for me as well. So that's why I'm using this brush. You know, here we go. Look, some more very basic sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not trying to make this detailed at all. All right, so we've got a bit of that there in the background. The rooftops, I do think as well, maybe a bit of extra, like a bit of extra darkness on some of the rooftops. Like, not darkness, but like a layer of burnt sienna. I just want to try that out and see what happens. Like that. Good, good. That should sort of melt down. Right, what else do we have here? We've got these boats, a little bit of shadow to the left-hand side of them there. You know, there. How can I just simplify this down so I don't have to work on it too much? That's all I'm thinking of really, just a quick indication to the left-hand side. Underneath the boats as well, you do get sometimes a little bit of this, you know, disturbance in the water, like this darker water. So that helps to just feather out a bit of darker paint around the boats. You know, you see a few more of these boats in other sections of the scene, and you can again just pick out that brush, a smaller brush, and outline the bottom of those boats, and you can imply a few things in there that aren't really there, like boats, you know, like that. It's not much, just a few little horizontal lines, and that does the trick. Okay, here, this, you know, this little, what you call it? Feel these little poles and things in the water as well. Again, I'm just gonna indicate these with a little flat brush, but again, a round brush also does the trick. And you'll notice these little poles get smaller and smaller as you move into the back, like that. There's even some around here. Probably better to go use some gouache in some parts as well to bring it out. Okay. All right. Let's see, some finishing touches. I think we're almost done with this sketch. I'm happy with how it looks as a, you know, and it's a quick little thing. But do I want to change anything else up? That's the question. That's the question. Do I leave it? This should be like kind of a reddish color, maybe. Thinking. Good. Let's have a look on the left side. You know, I can again detail a little bit more with some darker paint. Up to you. Up to you. I'm always wary of detailing too much, but for a sketch, it's looking okay. All right. I wonder if there's anything else that I'm missing that I might want to put in here. I think a little gouache, a tiny bit of gouache would be helpful. Okay. And I'm going to squeeze some out on the palette and pick out my round brush. Just a small round brush. Touch of water on it. Touch of water just helps to activate the gouache. And we can bring out some little details. Like one thing what annoyed me was that I'd accidentally gotten rid of this side of the dome. So I can kind of bring back a bit of it like that. And, you know, there's these little statues and things that are in front there. I can just imply some of that stuff that we'd lost out on before. Okay, it's just a tiny bit of gouache, a little bit of a touch and go. You don't want to overdo it because then it just starts looking overworked. Okay, oops, that hasn't dried yet in there. It doesn't matter. Okay, that building, bring back some of that white. Even underneath there, could do with a bit of that white as well. Yeah, I think I'd done something here as well, like that. What else do we have? Anywhere essentially that you want to bring back a bit of lighter color or detail, you can do it with this gouache. But yeah, just do it quite sparingly. Like here, you know, I might put in a few little verticals like this there, just to break it up a touch. Often, you know, these little poles and things will catch a little bit of light, so I can emphasize that. You know, even on some of these ones here, quick little something like that. You know, I do notice like a lot of the windows and things here they do have these kind of white, what you call it, balcony areas. Yeah, again, unnecessary kind of stuff, but you can put that in if you want. I'll just soften off this here as well. And lift off some color. Lift off a touch of color on the edges like that. Might bring back some of the background color. There we go. I think that looks better. Rather than having the gouache all the way through it, it just blends a little bit nicer. Okay, not bad, not bad. I'll give it a little dry. Okay, off with the tape. And doesn't look half bad. How long have I been streaming for? Bet you it's not been an hour yet. Or has it? Nearly an hour. I like how I've kept it pretty light as well. Even the shadows, I haven't gone overboard, so there's still this nice sort of soft feeling to it. Here we go. Not bad. I reckon, you know, one thing I could have done better is made the sky a bit darker around the edges of the buildings in the back. But it looks, I think it works. It works. Alrighty, so I do have a second reference that I want to also have a crack with, and it's another one that I haven't done before. I've just got to figure out where is it. It's on my desktop somewhere. Where is it? Oh, where is it? Where is this thing? Here it is. And this here is like a larger, sorry, not larger, but like a vertical, nice little vertical reference, and it's actually a little bit tricky, but I want to see if I can maybe reduce those background background bits and pieces like the buildings. If I can just reduce them down to a simple shape, I think that would be good, because there's so much going on, and there's so much going on in this particular reference. But I want to do it fairly quickly. Again, just I've not done this one before, but we apply that same process, we should be able to figure this one out. Yeah, so if we look at what's going on in this scene, we've firstly got to figure out, we've got to figure out the light source. Now, it's a little bit tricky. I think the light source is coming probably directly from above, maybe to the back and above. Okay, because you can see the figure, there's a person walking to the left of the scene, and the shadow of that figure is being cast in front. And yeah, even if you can see like the shades, the bridge, it's all just pretty dark underneath. So yeah, definitely shadows coming from above, but I'd say above to the back. So yeah, one thing I like is that all these buildings, they're all just kind of they all look a bit like silhouettes. So we won't need to detail too much in there. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Sadia says, nice, came together well. Thank you, Sadia. Let's draw a line through the center of the scene like this. All right, center of the scene. Now, that's just to break up sky and the ground. Obviously, like the buildings are part of the ground, but yeah, basically, if you look at the bottom of the buildings, that's where you want to draw the line, which I'd say is approximately halfway down the scene. Okay, so there we have it, and let's go in. There is this, what do you call it, this ledge here, and I'm going to simplify this down. There's that ledge. Yep, that. Okay, there, that is a basic kind of ledge. There's another one running to the right here, like this. Okay, and on top of that, we have a bridge that connects these two together on the back end. So let's put in this bridge. It kind of comes up like this, like this. Okay, it's flat on the top, but the bottom part, the side bits, it kind of slants down. So it's almost like a 3-part slant, and then the middle bit's just completely parallel. Okay. Oh, I'm just trying to figure this one out. This is tricky. Okay. Yep. Yep. Shape of this bridge has to connect up better. Okay. Yeah, it's just like just a semicircle down underneath like that. Okay. You can get that in at least. We've got a bridge here now. There's actually another part of the bridge behind there. That's why it's kind of looks a bit funny on that side of the scene, but we're okay. I love this umbrella. This is I just really like this red of the umbrella. I want to emphasize that, maybe make the umbrella a bit bigger, like that, just exposing the top of it more. And underneath it, you can see there's all these like frilly bits and pieces, and then you've got the back of it, which is like darker, and underneath is just, it's just darkness. Doesn't matter what's here, there's bits and pieces here. We do have a person walking here in the background, and I'll simplify this down as well. Have a person just walking into the scene from the left. Okay. Like that. Yeah. Don't want to put in two people. Maybe a bigger person here, just standing by the ledge, looking into the water. A boat just here. Oh, I'm gonna do this. The pointy bit. There's this the engine there at the back. This one I have to get in somewhat convincingly because it's so close to the front of the scene. Can't really get away with it. There. All right. That's a, basic boat. There we go. All right. And there's also like a shadow, a big kind of reflection here underneath, which I'm gonna just indicate like that as well. There's a ledge. There's a couple of these like poles that are sticking out of the water here as well. I don't know. Should I get them in? We'll see. We'll see. And on the right hand side, there is another boat. You can see the side of it there and the back of it there. Okay, it kind of comes out of the scene. But it's, if you think about it, it's like a little cup or something that's sitting in the water. Very simple. Always look at ways to simplify down a scene. I like these little shrubs or whatever here as well. And what else do we have? We've, of course, got these buildings. Let's just simplify them down. So this is what I was saying. I just want to make them look real basic, like a silhouette in the background. Okay, silhouette. Yeah, kind of experimenting with this. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I think it should look okay. My only worry is that if we don't put in the colors of all this, it's not going to look like, it's not going to look like Murano. But we'll sneak in some colors. We'll sneak in some colors in there. Not a problem. Okay. The buildings in the back, some of them just don't look crash hot like this one here. Maybe a little bit more detail there. That one goes up a bit higher, so that they're not all the same. Yeah, a little bit of detail in bits and places like that really help. Yeah, I didn't put any people here. We could put in a figure there, or someone crossing the bridge. It doesn't matter all too much, but when you have figures in here, it gives the scene a bit more life, and it makes it look like, it kind of makes it look like more three-dimensional. Okay, some more of these boats that we just have to indicate again. There's one here, smaller boat there in the background. Look at that. I don't need much going on in there at all. It's just a simple shape of a boat. There in the back, they just become like little squares. And these are important as well because they, again, make the scene look like it's kind of going back into the distance. Okay. let's get cracking on the painting. And what have we got here? We've got just got my main watercolor mop brush, cerulean blue for the sky. Just go straight in. How can I do this as quick as possible? Just pick up that cerulean blue and mash it in there. Okay, don't have enough water. Like that. Good. Okay. I want to. I'm so tempted to put in some clouds. Really tempted to put in some clouds. It's just like a compulsion I have whenever I see an empty bit of sky like that. I just want to pick up some color. Let's do it. Now I've done it. Bit of whatever I have here in the page. It's just a bit of purple mixed in with a neutral tint. Okay, this would be a larger kind of cloud up in the right. Maybe some, something like that here. Simple wet and wet cloud. I don't want too much going on, but some little clouds, that's nice. Some smaller ones further down as well. Okay, just keeps things looking a bit more interesting. Alrighty, so that's the sky done. Let's go ahead and work on the buildings. How are we all doing, by the way? It's been a little bit quiet tonight in the chats. Is everyone watching the Australian Open or something tonight? It's like I've got 1/10 of the people watching that I usually do. So maybe I should run these on weekends instead. But I was going to paint anyway, so it's always good to stream. I find I've had a lot of good feedback from you guys. Wanted to see some of these quicker scenes that I do. Let's get cracking with the buildings. Okay, so let's do some colors. Yeah, we're gonna go maybe with some blue here, or some whatever lighter color you've got. Just drop that in. Lighter sort of cool color, I guess. Drop that in there. The problem is that the sky is still wet, so it does run a touch, but you'll be okay. Maybe I want to mix up a bit of pink. Just drop that in for this building here in the back. And that's what I'm saying, with this Murano scene, we need to have some kind of these gaudy looking colors in areas. I find it does help to give a sense of place. Okay, so, but yeah, I don't want to overdo it. Just a little bit of color for it, and then that we'll have to go over the top of these anyway, so they'll be gone. Just a quick wash after, but you might be able to see some of this color show through, which is going to be good news. Oh damn, got a bit of that color up the top. Doesn't matter. This umbrella is nice, kind of vibrant red. Let's get in a bit of that color in here. And we'll cut around it afterwards with some of this darker color. Okay, but I think just some of that, the blue on that building is going to help. Some of this stuff as well here. Connect it all up. Good. Got something going on in here. Good. Okay. So with this bridge again, I want to put in a bit of brownish color. So I've got some brown ochre or some raw umber. Drop that in. Very light wash across the edge of the bridge. The surface of the bridge, and bring that down. And I will go into it again afterwards, I think, with some darker paint, but something like this is, like I said, it's good to just get in a nice pre-wash, okay, light wash of basic kind of colors. And here down the base, I'm picking up some little bit of yellow ochre and bringing this down into the foreground, into the side of this, yeah, side of this ledge. Okay. The ledge actually comes out to here. Like that. That's what it was. And then underneath you've kind of got the darker color there. But I don't need to do that, any of that stuff just yet. Some more yellow ochre here on the right hand side, and maybe a touch of this green, undersea green, which is basically just a darker green. I'll drop that in here for these shrubs, something like that there. Okay, where's that vibrancy there? I need to just make that more vibrant. Okay, underneath again, bit of light, and then the darkness of some of those buildings there in the back also. Good. I'm going to the water. This is tricky. It's kind of, we've got reflections of the sky here. All right, just bringing the ultramarine, not ultramarine, but bit of the cerulean blue, through parts of the scene. Like, as you can see, just in the reference photo, you've got a bit of blue here, just in areas of it. Okay. Like that. And while I want to let that edge kind of dry off a little bit. While that happens, I will just continue working a bit on the rest of this scene. It did dry off a little bit funny, so I'm just re-wetting that a little bit. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a very sharp kind of shadow in here. Definitely, it's very sharp sort of shadow. So I reckon I can just do that afterwards. We can do that in one sharper sort of wash. I can let this all dry, but before I do, I just want to put in some, darker paint underneath the boat, just a little bit of that to have something signifying that the boat is there. Okay, even these ledges could do with a touch of, like a touch of color or something at the base, like that. It's very difficult to see where it actually starts and ends. There we go, kind of around there. Just looking at it. Okay, that's better. Yep. Good. So I'm going to dry this one off. Okay, so the next step here is really finding a large shadow shape that we can place over the entire scene, run into the water, yeah, and basically just get the shadow in from all this I will actually, I thought I'd put in a little bit of yellowy color here for this boat here in the front. It's probably going to turn green. So I have blue on my brush, but just a little bit of that here. I've forgotten before that it needs something, a little bit of color like that. Okay, the others, you know, maybe a bit of blue here. There we go, bit of blue. That's not blue. This is blue. Okay, so let's get cracking, and I reckon what we'll do is work our way all the way from the back. Okay, and it's kind of what I was experimenting with before, just trying to get in some kind of large shadow shape and connecting it on with the bridge. So a bit of ultramarine blue, bit of red, and a bit of yellow ochre to mix up a grayish color. And I do want it to look a bit purplish as well. Perhaps I just like purple as a shadow color. I've got to be careful that it's not too vibrant of a purple. I do have some brown left on the corners of the palette, and the brown, when you mix that in with the blues, it dulls it down significantly. So now I've got more of a grayish value here. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do this, test this out. All right, that's about the right value. Well, I want to make it, I want to actually make this darker. So let's just go ahead and do it. And how quickly can I do this? How can I just put in these bits of darkness here in the back and cut around? If you notice this umbrella, cut around that umbrella as well, like that, to create a sharper edge like that for the umbrella. Okay. But at the same time, you notice what I'm doing is also just leaving some of the, some of the light showing through on the buildings. Okay. Like I said, I'm just experimenting with this. I don't know how it will turn out at the end, but I know if I put it in maybe in one larger shape, it should look better. Okay. Now here, getting some shadows in for these buildings, but again, leaving a bit of that color showing through. A bit of that color showing through. Let's get this bridge in. A little bit of brown for that bridge. I can darken it off a touch. Okay. I'll just dampen off some of that color in the back touch. Let's do dark. Now we've got, underneath the umbrella, pretty dark. Underneath like this, just a bit of darkness there. And here as well, as you can see, like that. I'm trying to cut around these figures with a bit of extra color, a bit of extra darkness there in the background. Forgotten to put in the legs and stuff for these figures. Well, some colors in for these figures, but the legs I can put in just quickly like this, and shadow underneath as well, like that. Okay. Um, this ledge here, gonna get that in quickly. Just trying to have faith in this end product. I'm not happy with that section at all, but we want to continue on. We always want to make sure I finish my paintings, see what it looks like in the end. You know, I'm not trying to get a masterpiece or anything here, but I do want to learn something from it at least. Okay, cutting around those bits and pieces. Now moving further down, I'm going to just pick up a larger mop brush and mix myself up a bit of green and blue to get in this water. It's kind of like a greenish bluey color. Okay, I'm going to probably make it more bluish. And let's just drop that in. How does that look? More like a muddy, a bit of muddiness to it. Okay. Sharper looking shapes as well. Oh yeah, that's the back of the boat here. This is how I can create some sharper reflections in the water from this, whatchamacallit, the buildings, the reflections of the buildings here in the water. It's all kind of just one big wash of color, like that. Kind of goes up into the ledge as well. There. Okay. And, the reflection of the boat. Gotten that. And the boat needs to be a bit darker as well, to sort of blend in. I'm just using a bit of neutral tint and a bit of yellow mixed together. Darker. I need this to be decent concentration of color. This little thing here is in a bit of shadow. The motor on the back. Most of this boat behind as well. There, darken this one off. Okay. Maybe some more people here on the right hand side. Yeah, I'm not too happy with those buildings in the background, but yeah, but I wanted to just give it a try. I've kind of done half. See, on the left side, I've created a silhouette. On the right side, I've just put in some of the shadows, but hopefully I can redeem myself and put in a bit of like windows and stuff like that, just so that it looks better. And same with these poles and things. The darker, real dark bits at the end should hopefully bring this together. We're not done yet. I sometimes get these moments where you want to give up, but you have to just push through. Even if it doesn't quite work out the way you want it to work out, you can still learn something from it. I learned so much from these little sketches. You know, I do so many of these sketches, but I don't show anyone the end result of them because they're often pretty terrible. But that's how I learn quickly. I mean, I'm just painting all the time, and at some point, you'll get it. I'm going to put in a bit of blue for this person's top there. Yeah, just a little bit of blue or something. I don't know about this one to the left. Maybe some red. I don't know. Yeah, a little bit of red, or it's too saturated, these colors. I want to just dull that one off a bit. Yeah, something like that. How you doing, Neth? Okay. I'm having a look at everything and just seeing if there's anything else I want to kind of add in here. I think I'll dry it off and actually maybe put in a bit more detail. You know, this boat, you see there's like these little compartments here. You can, this is all up to you if you want to do this type of stuff, but you can imply little bits of detail like that. In here as well, there's like a bit of darkness in the boat itself, like there. And Sadia is saying that's good advice. Always wanted to paint. Yeah, look, it's, you know, a lot of times people think that they're no good at painting, but at the end of the day, if you paint and you enjoy it, I think that's good enough reason to paint. And with enough practice, and if you just keep at it, you will end up getting pretty good at it. Trust me. But you know, the toughest thing is enjoying yourself while doing it. A lot of people get too stressed out when they're painting and give up. And if when it becomes stressful, that's when you know it's not fun anymore. So you always got to find ways to keep it enjoyable for yourself. Always got to find something to you know. And the way I do it is, again, I just sketch, you know. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then so be it. But I treat this as a bit of a learning experience. And that's the way you can be less harsh on yourself as well. People just tend to judge themselves, their paintings, too harshly. But remember, it's just paint and paper. Yeah, if it doesn't work out, it's no big deal. As long as you had fun doing it. So you just, okay, so you recently just started drawing and painting. Yeah, you should see my drawings and paintings back in 2014. They were pretty shocking. But, you know, the thing with these days with social media, it's so easy to start comparing yourself with other people. And it's the worst thing you can do because it just takes such a long time to learn any of these techniques and skills when you're painting. Even drawing in itself is very difficult. Alrighty. Continuing on now, and for the final bit, really, I just want to get in darks and details, little details. You know, one thing I can see is these, like, what do you call them? These little poles. One comes through the scene there, like that. Another one here. You know, I'm going to just make it go over the top of those figures, like that. And there is a shadow on the ground, um, like that for that one, and then another one for that one, like that. Okay. Um, Really, at this stage, I'm looking at some parts, some bits and pieces that I can potentially just bring out of the painting, little details. Um, just looking at this reflection and thinking it's not, it should be darker, a little bit like a touch darker. Just go over that one more time. Hopefully I can use that to bring out the boat a little bit more. The, I've gone over it way too many times, but doesn't matter. This boat here as well, a bit of something in there. I like this big reflection shape in the water, and I want to try this again. So this is one thing I've gained out of this. I want to try this again, but what incorporating the background buildings as well, just a bit more, because oops, this shade or whatever here, this umbrella is taking up a bit of space. Oh, how do I get these? Oh, this is so tricky. Doesn't matter. I'll leave it like that. At least I've got a bit of that, the sunlight hitting the top of that umbrella. You know, you've also got, of course, these little windows and things on the houses in the background. So you can just go ahead and indicate a little bit of this stuff going on. I'm not gonna overdo it. Or I'm gonna try not to. Oh, stuff that one a bit. Mm, Maybe I should have gone a bit lighter with those background buildings. I think a little bit lighter would have been better. Yeah, like how these ones ended up here on the right. That's how I'll probably do them next time. I like the look of these ones on the right, but those ones there, I reckon I just needed to add a bit more sort of highlights or stuff inside. But I'll actually go in with a bit of gouache in a moment and just see if, just play around and see if I can change it a touch. Before I do, I'll just finish off some little bits and pieces of these boats here in the water. It's looking very, I mean, compared to most of my paintings, I'd say it's looking very kind of elementary in terms of what's happening in here with the figures and the painting. It's not definitely not my best painting, but um, I am having fun and I'm learning a little bit about what I'll do next time as well. You know, I often will attempt a scene a number of times, even before I do a live workshop. When I run one of those larger live workshops, often will attempt it a couple of times before, just to make sure, that I know what I'm doing. Uh, but sometimes, like this, I'm just going in. A lot of times, really, I just go in and without a plan and figure it out along the way, you know, and you make your plan along the way as well. So, looking okay actually. The only thing I don't like again, yeah, is these sort of buildings there in the background. Um, the figures, again, they don't look the best. I can change that up a little bit. Let's see. Can I do something? What else can I do? I'll give it a dry and then put some gouache in. Okay, a little bit of white gouache. And I'm going to use this to sort of play around with the background shadows, especially the light. Now, I know maybe a little bit of that gouache might help, just seeing the side of that building, or not, you know. Whenever you use gouache, you have to do it in such a way so that it's not uh, too obvious. Yeah, that I think that kind of makes it look a little bit better. It breaks up the darkness a bit back there, but it still looks like one big kind of shape. This, but yeah, again, it just sort of looks like there's a bit of smokiness or something going through the back. Variation is so important. Variation in brushstrokes, variation in values. Okay. I'm going to put in a little bit of gouache for like some highlights and we'll call it a day. One thing I really like is this sharper shadow. I want to definitely experiment more around, and I have to be more planned with this shadow of the boat as well next time. But yeah, again, the light is going to be coming from the top, the back and back top area. So, you know, look, you're going to get a little bit of light maybe on the bridge, you know, on top of this umbrella, on top of these little, um, oh, geez, lost my ability to speak at the moment, but these little poles like that, see, just a little bit of white gouache, and suddenly, you know, suddenly it seems like the light is returning. It's come back in areas, but ideally you don't want to have to do too much of this. You know, I sort of joke around at the end and say, I want you use a little bit of gouache, but then I end up using too much of it. And that's, yeah, you don't want too much of it. Just enough. These figures, these people here as well, maybe a little bit of the shoulder of that figure, that one there. In the water, I do find sometimes you get these little streaks of, see, just these little streaks of light coming through. So if you use that in areas and just break it up a touch, find that can help to, make it look more interesting. Oops. Okay. Not bad. Not bad for a little sketch. Okay. What do you guys think of today? Bit of a smaller audience than last time. But yeah, it is the start of the week. It is the start of the week. So in summary, we went through my 3-step process: painting the light, painting the dark parts, adding in some final touches, final highlights, and bits and pieces at the end. Okay. And I guess the one big lesson I want you to take out of this is that your painting doesn't have to be a hyper conscious thing that you do, where you plan everything out, make sure you get it all correct, dedicate a whole afternoon and get all serious about it. It's just about giving it a go, all right, and learning along the way. These are by no means polished pieces. I wouldn't even call them good pieces of art personally, based on other bits of on other paintings that I've done. But I've learned so much on both of them, because I've used these two scenes to practice stuff that I don't usually do. The first here, I've tried to get in a darker background behind the buildings, but kind of blend it from a light to dark. Okay. And I could have gone darker there. That's probably the only thing I would have done differently. Everything else was just really quick. The shadows as well. This one here, I really wanted to practice this sharper sort of shadow in there and maybe try to get in the buildings as a larger silhouette. Kind of worked. It kind of worked, but at the same time, the silhouette of the buildings, it just obscures the context of this scene. And if you look on the right-hand side with all these colored buildings, they automatically just scream Murano or Venice. But if I did these all darker and it was hard to see. So, might be just a case of me detailing that part more next time. So how did you guys find it? There's a few people here on the session today. We've got Aggressive Koala. Looks like you've just managed to join. Accidentally clicked YouTube and found out it's the end of everything. It's funny. I find that on YouTube, a lot of people tell me they don't really get notified of when I go live. So I just have to, it depends if people join, if they click that notification bell as well. But yeah, I do find a few people say that, or they end up just joining accidentally. Oh, what am I doing? Just wanted to touch up a little portion there. So I think that's about it. I'm gonna probably head to sleep now, guys. But had a nice little sketching session tonight. And yeah, if you're watching afterwards and you have questions or you want to leave a comment, make sure you do so. I'm always happy to answer questions after as well. Remember to check the description, the video description, and also the pinned comment in the chat for access to my 70 course program and Patreon as well. If you enjoy these workshops and you want to keep them going, want to support me, check out my Patreon and sign up for one of the tiers. You can give it a try for a month if you want. But yeah, that's about it. So I will see you all. I will catch you all next time. Oh, correct. Yeah, aggressive koala says notification doesn't work. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, it's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you might have to click the notification bell and say and click on whatever enable all notifications. But yeah, it's funny because like on my other channel where I do electronics reviews, you know, I've got fewer subscribers on there, but every time I go live, I get quite a lot of people watching. You know, up to, you know, at one time up to 50 people, even though I didn't plan it at all. So yeah, go figure. I've been trying to stream a little bit more on this channel to wake it up a little bit because I've only been doing one or so stream a month, and I figure because I do a lot of these sketches anyway, I'll go live, turn them into these mini workshops. So anyhow, I will catch you all next time. Thanks for coming along.